Welcome to Shaq's house. Shaq's house. That's our Shaq. You're now in Shaq's house. Shaq. Welcome to Shaq's house.
What's up, Shaq Housers? It's your boy Shaq House here. Hope y'all had a really good day today. I'm gonna keep this really brief. It's part 3 of the dumbest mutant powers Marvel's ever done. Yeah, back early, and thank you for the 250 views, by the way, people. Love y'all. So sit back and enjoy the ride. Peace! Briquette. Briquette was born with 2 mutant abilities. The first is superhuman levels of size, strength, and durability. The second is that she has hyper-exothermic skin, producing tremendous levels of heat at all times, exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit at maximum. This makes even brief contact with her something to avoid, and enables her to melt through most substances merely by touching them. She's a Peter David creation, and a lot of his characters, they had code names that were puns centered around their superpowers. Furthermore, when rappers talk about being on fire, I'm on fire, we up in here, they never compare themselves to Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights or Briquette. Yeah, she's a big girl, all right, but don't get it twisted. She's big, but hot. And I mean that literally for both. Yeah, she reminds me of that old song by the Stylistics. That one that goes... Basically, she's too big and too hot for anyone to hold on to. It gives a brand new meaning to the phrase, drop it like it's hot. Next. Big Bertha. Big Bertha was born with the mutant ability to mentally control her weight by manipulating her mass and gravity. By expanding and reconfiguring the fat deposits in her body, she's able to adjust her figure at will. She can cause her body to inflate into a massively obese state. In such a state, her fat and tissue are highly elastic and resilient, allowing her to absorb various forms of physical attack without puncturing, tearing, bruising, etc. Increasing the force of gravity allows her to withstand tremendous forces and impact without budging from the spot. She can also temporarily decrease gravity, allowing her to leap many times her own weight up into the air and then increase her weight again to come crashing down on top of an opponent. She can easily submerge people and objects underneath herself by increasing the gravitational force pulling her down. In her obese form, Big Bertha has some level of superhuman strength, enough to tear off and lift heavy metal pillars with incredible ease. Ashley Crawford is actually a wealthy and thin Kate Moss type of supermodel, and she uses the earnings from her career to finance a team of fellow mutant heroes who couldn't quite cut it as actual Avengers or X-Men for that matter, and they call themselves the Great Lake Avengers or the Great Lakes X-Men, whoever's writing the story, it depends on. Ashley's superheroine nom de guerre is Big Bertha, and she's legally changed her first name to Bertha too. Her power sounds cool. I know plenty of women who wish they could do this, plenty of men too. In fact, here's one right here with the power to do that. The only problem is, she can't remove her extra fatty tissue as easily as she can manifest it. Yeah, in a pretty interesting twist on anorexic or bulimic models, she's got to vomit all that fat back up, regurgitating hundreds of pounds of fat just to get rid of it, just to go back to her skinny form. Yeah, thanks but no thanks. Next! Omega Red. Omega Red's mutant power enables him to generate parasitic emissions from his own body. And he can use his power in 2 ways. One, he can create what he calls his death aura, an energy field that drains the life energy of anyone within his proximity. Secondly, he can secrete pheromones from his body that also drain the life energy of anyone in his proximity, killing them. And he can then absorb the life energy that his mutant power drains from his victims into himself in order to sustain his own life energy. And he's got to drain the life energy of others in order to remain active and live. Aside from that, Omega Red's got chalky white skin, and his recruitment into the Russian super soldier program left him physically transformed, developing a surgically enhanced musculature, enhanced strength, agility, reflexes, endurance, and durability. Implanted within his arms are long coils made of carbonadium, an alloy that resembles adamantium, like Wolverine's claws, but is more malleable and considerably less resistant to damage. Omega Red can cause the coils to shoot forward from the openings in the undersides of his wrists in order to ensnare his victims, and the coils apparently expand as they are released, since they're far longer than he is tall when fully extended. He can also use the coils as a conduit for his power. Never mind those fake-me-out Doc Ock tendrils that Comrade Ivan Drago has. This right here is his real power. He's a vampire. Yeah, he absorbs life energy that his mutant power drains from his victims in order to sustain his own. Yeah, he's got to drain the life energy from others to remain active. Doesn't make for a whole lot of options, does it? Except to become a psychotic Cold War-era serial killer. Anywho, next. Arturo Falcone. Arturo Falcone was born with the mutant power to produce quasi-sentient creatures out from inside his body, creating different life forms depending on his mood and emotional states. When he was a young man, he had a happy disposition, so his powers spawned small, beautiful creatures. As he aged, his disposition became jaded, which was exacerbated by unemployment and alcoholism, causing his creatures to be more deformed and monstrous. The creatures he later in life came to produce accumulated under his skin in blisters that aggressively released the life forms once they popped. The blisters formed anywhere on his body, causing him to painfully release the creatures once the blisters popped. In his downtrodden middle age, his power and the accompanying blisters caused him constant physical agony. Like most District X residents, ex-garbage man Arturo Falcone didn't manifest any cool or glamorous powers. But when Decimation, M-Day hit, the day that Wanda Maximoff took all 98% of the mutant population's powers and made them human, I know this fool was down on his knees thanking God, or rather Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, for taking that power of his away. I mean, this fool was a pimple popper's nightmare. I mean, look at him. It shows him manifesting a creature from out of his shoulder, but what if it happened on his chest? Or his dick and balls, for that matter? His power had some possibilities, though. He could have potentially created an army of sentient beings or perhaps even a new species. Of course, he didn't seem to be able to consciously dictate exactly what came out of him. Only his mood determined that. But thanks to the Scarlet Witch, he got depowered. If I had a power that bad, I'd have a shrine for Wanda Maximoff in my house and be happy as fuck. Next, Cypher. And you silly motherfuckers all call his power useless. I know it started off as him having the power to translate any language or code, written or spoken, human or alien, which made him functionally useless in battle. But here's the thing, that's a good power in practicality, and it's been expanded upon ever since he got resurrected. So all you motherfuckers out there talking that Paris Hilton mouthful of dick garbage, shut up already, because you about to learn. Here's what Douglas Aaron Ramsey, Cypher, can do. Cypher's mutant power is an intuitive capacity for interpreting the context and subtext of behavior and activity to read the intent behind it. The most commonly seen aspect of this power is his ability to translate and internalize languages. His power generated a field of psionic energy that classifies the syntax and meaning of language into a manner understandable to an individual mind. Using his power, he could understand and decipher any language or code, be it written or spoken, human or alien in nature. He could even read body language and gestures to instinctively understand what they mean within the context of that culture or the individual person using them. This makes him an excellent poker player, as he can instinctively recognize and understand tells his opponents make. His skill with computer languages makes him an excellent intuitive programmer and hacker. Only a small amount of exposure is necessary for him to completely and permanently internalize a language in his linguistic center. Originally, he couldn't extend his translation field beyond the confines of his own mind. However, an alternate realities version of Cypher, the one from Earth 295, aka the Age of Apocalypse, showed that he could expand his power over an area of miles, allowing everyone within the range of his translation field to process languages into a form they could personally understand. This version of Cypher could sense all the minds that were affected by his translation field's effect, even disembodied astral forms like the Shadow King. The scope of his power expanded much further after his resurrection using a techno-organic virus. His ability now enables him to read subtle cues in body language, tone, and other behavior to identify the true feelings and meaning behind anything someone says or does. Naturally, this makes him an innate lie detector, but it also allows him to anticipate movement and fighting styles as they're being put into motion. And the more ingrained those particular movements are for a person, the easier it is for Cypher to recognize the cues their body gives off. On the other hand, his power fails him when dealing with people possessed by an outside source, like mind control, as they now move and act under the direction of a mind whose quote-unquote language is completely foreign to that body. Cypher can not only read people, but he can also read the intent behind things people have done. This means it could be something simple, such as divining an artist's intent for a painting, or more complex, like translating the scope of a building's architecture. By looking at the X-Men's Utopia headquarters design aesthetic above ground, he was able to read the manner in which the rest of the structure was built outside of his line of sight, and located an access way to a former space station underwater. He can understand and decipher geography, quantum cryptography, pheromones, numeric systems, force field harmonics, binary, hieroglyphs, microexpressions, and he can even determine recipes simply by sampling food. He can create new languages, as he did on the island of Krakoa with the Krakoan language, teach himself to speak in subconscious dream language, and can read magical skills, though the constant shifting of syntax presents him with great difficulty. He's detected shifts in reality, and when in contact with sentient alien technology, he can decipher cosmic-level languages such as dimensions and even genetics. To avoid missing information, Cypher barely ever blinks. He's vulnerable to being mentally overwhelmed by inputs, such as when he tried to decipher the entire internet and mutated languages like magical tomes, and then they can control his mind. Additionally, as it was before his resurrection, Cypher's teammate Warlock often takes the form of sophisticated battle suits or armor to protect Doug during combat. And to the extent this remains true after his resurrection remains to be seen, although Warlock does manage to shape himself into an arm for Cypher that's constantly on his body. Alright folks, that's all I got for this week for part 3. Tune in next week, I'm definitely doing a part 4. Tune in then, Shackhousers. Later.
Mansion, apartment.
Shack house. Yes!
Yeah.